This is the fourth unit in Being the Best Community Action Board training series. We're going to look at the board's responsibility for development. Information Memorandum 82 describes development in terms that we presented in the last unit. The memorandum specifically mentions community assessment and clarifying the mission in that regard. In this unit, we're going to talk about development as a bridge between planning and implementation, as those activities are discussed in IM 82. You should have a worksheet for this unit. If you would get that out now, please answer each of the questions as we go through the presentation. And take a minute after the presentation to complete the worksheet and to discuss any questions that came to mind during the presentation. So what do we mean by development then? We're going to talk about development as what the board does to carry out its strategic plan. Specifically, what a board can do to bring the resources of the community to bear on the community action mission of helping people move out of poverty. IM 82 lists 4 specific development activities. 1, locating public resources and programs that would support client and community outcomes. 2, facilitating communication between the agency and these resources and programs. 3, identifying and linking to community resources that are not part of public programming. And advocating to public and private entities to support efforts to increase self-sufficiency among low-income families. Before we get to that, a word about resources. You've probably noted that this is a word frequently used in our units, and it's going to come up a lot in this one. Resources is a general term for any and all of the things that can give low-income people greater control over their lives. In fact, it applies to the lives of any of us. Examples include funding, programs, other persons, relationships, training, education, work experience, affordable housing, transportation and medical services, childcare, and so forth. It's not a complete list, but it should help you when you hear the word resources. It is anything that gives low-income people a greater capacity for independent living and/or greater self-sufficiency. So, how can board members link to public resources? Well, elected officials on the board serve on many community nonprofit and intergovernmental bodies in addition to or as a result of their elected office. And so in that capacity, they can inform the board about the effect on low-income people of what other groups in the community are doing, both public and private. They can also tell the other bodies of which they're members that what the CAA is doing and plans to do. Elected officials particularly can play an important role in making sure public dollars have as great an effect as possible. They can suggest ways that community action and public programs work together to multiply their benefits and to serve more people rather than to duplicate each other. A community action board also has an opportunity to connect with non-public resources when selecting its community members. On the one hand, the board should seek out entities that can benefit or support low-income people. There could be, for example, banks willing to provide tutoring in financial literacy or to manage individual development accounts. Possibly there are businesses that will give persons ready to enter the job market job shadowing experience or mentored work experience. If you're fortunate, your community has foundations that will seed innovative program startups, such as a small business incubator for low-income persons wanting to be self-employed. On the other hand, the board should seek out entities that can benefit from the participation of low-income people, such as Business persons willing to employ low-income persons at a subsidized wage as part of on-the-job training or as a way for them to expand their business. There might be businesses willing to pay part or all of a low-income person's education or training with a guarantee of employment on completion. And there are many organizations that work with youth who need mentors who have overcome poverty and a disadvantage and taken control of their lives. And these are organizations which can make good use of successful individuals working with community action agencies. The 1970 Office of Economic Opportunity instruction, to which we often return, states that community action agencies should, quote, stimulate increased community responsiveness to the needs of the poor. That can best be carried out through active collaboration with other programs and organizations. There are many ways to collaborate. Many board members are already involved with multiple groups, as we've suggested. Employees in leadership positions participate in interagency councils or work groups or advisory committees within the service area. Early Head Start and Head Start specialists are involved in a variety of early childhood development bodies in their community. These are groups which deal with prenatal care, early identification of developmental delays, addressing the oral health needs of preschool children, and any number of other child development issues. Managers from many community action programs are likely to participate in community workforce development groups, groups working to create vocational programs or on-the-job training activities, conducting employment readiness preparation, or involved in community economic development to create new jobs. Many program managers and executive directors are involved in similar collaborations at the state level, which includes participating in the State Community Action Association and its many professional peer groups such as finance directors, family self-sufficiency directors, weatherization directors, and so forth. These networking activities keep the needs of low-income people active in the attention of persons and groups who may not have that particular focus. They also help employees keep up to date on the activities of other professionals, and they enable employees to increase their professional knowledge and skills. Community action agencies began as mechanisms for giving low-income people a community platform from which to be heard. Again, the 1970 instruction restates this responsibility this way. While the operation of programs is the CAA's principal activity, it is not the CAA's primary objective. CAA programs must serve the larger purpose of mobilizing resources and bringing about greater institutional sensitivity. The two national community change goals incorporate the results of this advocacy. Goal 2 seeks changes in community conditions to make them more supportive to low-income people. This includes creating better and more affordable housing, ensuring access to health care of all kinds, job training and education that prepare people for work that's actually available. It includes access for low-income children to such important developmental activities as sports, music, and the arts, which often have fees that make them unattainable for low-income people. It can include creating transportation options that allow low-income people to get to services, to educational programs and training, as well as employment. Goal 3 seeks to create opportunities for low-income people to establish roots in the community. In one way, it helps them to be more active participants in the school and with teachers so that they can be better guides and advocates for their children's education. Community action agencies create or help prepare people to participate in local decision-making processes that especially affect the lives of low-income people. Groups such as a Head Start Policy Council and the Community Action Board are training grounds for low-income people to participate in other community groups such as neighborhood betterment groups, parent-teacher organizations, youth development programs like scouting or boys and girls clubs. This goal too includes helping low-income people become small business persons, homeowners, responsible, engaged employees. A community action agency, like all other successful community organizations, recognizes that it must be only a piece of a network of resources that support low-income people in their journey from poverty to self-sufficiency. Much emphasis in the Community Action Network has been put on fundraising in recent years. There have been at least two reasons. One has been a growing concern that federal funding will be cut and that some agencies will not survive this reduction. A second is a broader concern that agencies expand the base of local support for their work, particularly in the communities they serve. Fundraising, however, can be seen as closely related to the organization's purpose. If the Community Action Agency thinks of itself as part of a network of community organizations with similar and valuable community betterment purposes, or if they see themselves as just one of many organizations in the community dedicated to moving people to self-sufficiency. And in fact, a community will be more comfortable with a CAA conducting fundraising if the organization is seen in the community as one that makes significant differences in the life chances for low-income people. As you plan your developmental efforts, promote your agency as a community betterment organization rather than as a deliverer of government programs. Please take a minute now to review and complete your worksheet and your unit evaluation. Thank you again for your service on this Community Action Board. Our next unit will be on oversight of financial management.